my financial career, I've taken over the New York Stock Exchange and I know how to make money move. Now, I'm inviting you to get all the way in your bag and never look back. Welcome to With the Bag to Match, brought to you by SpringHill and JP Morgan Wealth Management. I'm your host, Lauren Simmons. We're gonna start with the truth. As Black and brown women, we don't check in with each other nearly enough when it comes to our financial wellness. In this series, we're getting into all things money with incredible women of color who are finding smart ways to invest in their own financial futures so that they can flourish. Our JP Morgan Wealth Management Advisor will be delving deeper in today's discussion later in the show. So grab a pen and paper, break open your notes app, because gems are about to be dropped. On this episode, I have the privilege of sitting down with the powerhouse whose endeavors have always been centered around uplifting the stories of Latinx entrepreneurs. Today, she's here to share her own remarkable journey from the steps that led her to this point to the pivotal moments where she truly secured the bag.
What's up? My name is Brittany Chavez, and I am the CEO of Shop Latinx. So it all started in 2016. I had quit my internship at a music label and then decided to start rideshare driving full time. I'm talking 14-hour days. So one of those days I come home and I start diligently researching all the statistics around the Latinx community, from spending power to the rise of entrepreneurship. I then started to see that there was this huge opportunity to create an online platform that really spoke to next-gen Latinos across business, creativity, and all of that good stuff. And long story short, that's how Shop Latinx came to be.
I'm so excited that you're here. First off, there are so many ways in which you're making moves and putting people on, starting with your business. You created Shop Latinx upon finding out that Latinos at the time had $1.3 trillion in buying power. Huge number. Tell us about how that statistic sparked the idea for Shop Latinx.
Yes. Okay. So now I think that statistic has tripled to date, which is crazy. And then also, too, Latinos are the fastest growing demographic in the United States. So back in 2016, when I came up with the idea for Shop Latinx, I was searching the internet for Latino businesses to support, and there was no centralized platform that allowed me to search. So I really wanted to make sure that the products that I highlighted were of quality and that would really speak to Latinas like myself.
You saw a problem, you created a solution to the problem, but also that you really use what our generation does best, the power of social media, to lift this up off the ground. In the past, you've mentioned how often you had to figure things out yourself.
Yeah.
Tell us about the process of getting into VC.
You know what? There was one Latino that worked in tech for a firm in Silicon Valley. And I forget, I think I met him through Twitter or something. And he invited me to go to this conference in the Bay. And it was called Latinx in Tech at the time. I ended up going, and I was surrounded by so many Latinos that worked at like these top startups. And I think that was my first step into being like, it's gonna make me emotional. Like, damn, like I can really do this, you know? And I think that like what you said about creating a business, like I saw a problem, I created the solution, and why not me? You know, if there's so many other like brown people in this room, you know, why can't Shop Latinx be successful?
And it is.
Yeah.
And please, I'm not going to cry.
Sorry, I'm a crybaby, but you know, I just think that also too, like, to really take a bet on myself from a business standpoint, that's something that my family has never done. It was really like make minimum wage or like have this like unwavering faith that like it's gonna be successful and just go for it.
I think, first off, we're the same people. Like,
we are.
In the sense of like, yeah, mine was a little bit more linear. I did traditional school, but I just remember when I was making the shift from coming off the New York Stock Exchange, and I was like, I'm gonna bet on myself. And when you have so many people around you that question you, doubt you, and I think especially as...
they're projecting.
But I think that validation, once you did it and you saw what it is that you were creating and all the lives that you were impacting, that's the transformation, which is why it just keeps... It keeps just growing and growing. And now I want to know, like, take us through, this is the fun question, take us through your first big venture capital check.
So I just finished this incubator program in Los Angeles called Grid 110. I love them so much. And then after Grid 110, I went on to be a part of this other accelerator that gives you your first investment check. So through that accelerator program, I got a $150,000 check. I raised during the pandemic. And so during that time, what was keeping me afloat was the stimulus checks. And I was on EBT. Yeah, it was crazy. To me, that was the most money I had ever seen in my bank account, like actually. And after that intensive program, I really started to see who the investors were that I wanted to pitch. And they were mostly Black, Latina, and women investors that were in the consumer marketplace sector. But now, after a few pivots, I really realized that like I want to take a step further and go from a venture-backed company to a profitable company. So now I'm at a place where, you know, we are a media and content platform, and now we're generating ad revenue through that. And I'm like, I can either make 500,000 or raise 500,000. I think I'm just like wiping my hands and saying like that was an experience that I'm definitely fortunate to have.
And you learned,
had.
You went through the journey, you are grateful and you did it, but you could also recognize in doing that and that success and the impact that you made, that you have the insights and the fortitude to say, I'm gonna do so much more. With that, you do so much for other women in helping them set up for success. How do you tend to yourself in your own financial goals?
I didn't know about a Roth IRA until like 3 years ago. What?
Yeah,
you know, so I think now I've been more cognizant of my spending habits, and I'm even like moving out of New York City and I'm going to where it feels good.
Yeah.
And now my rent is cut in half. I'm able to use that money and invest in myself. You know, my money wounds just don't go away overnight just because I get bloop, $1 million in my bank account.
Which a lot of people seem to think.
It exposes you to your financial traumas.
Yeah.
You know, not
It's
even just your
amplified.
own, but like your generational financial trauma. You know, so I think that's a big thing for me, is like investing in myself looks like self-care. It looks like massages. It looks like hiking. It looks like also too, like making time for hobbies.
You work so hard, you deserve a little splurge once in a while.
A spend that I can't resist is going to the thrift store. It's unlike going to a regular department store because you don't know what you're gonna end up with. And I think there's also that thrill of like finding a really cool gem for a cheap price. And then the way that I do the girl math in my head, I'll just walk out with so much. I always go over budget on skincare products. I'm never not buying a little serum, a little lotion, trying new ingredients. So yeah, it's my guilty pleasure.
I want to talk about the importance of financial education in the Latinx community. Do you feel like the community is armed with the information they need from an early age?
No.
Or is there still work to do? And I even want to add, is financial literacy enough?
I don't think it's enough.
Why?
Because I just feel like there's such a pay disparity in this country that it's like, it reminds me of like what they would do to Black and brown founders in venture capital. You know, like they won't invest in you, but they'll have you do a pitch competition and like dance for maybe some money, you know? And I think that...
And that's real, that's honest. That's not just in venture, that's in a lot of places.
You know, and I just think that like literacy is cool, but like pay us a fair wage. You know what I mean? Pay us just as much as our white male counterparts. We're not taken seriously when we're asking for a loan, you know?
Or we're in the room, but we're not really in the back room where where you're having...
There's an inherent bias. There's institutional racism that I think occurs in many different industries. So, I mean, is financial literacy enough? No, but it's a start. Or
even just for people who are entrepreneurs, like how do you go about structuring your business? Like going from like an LLC, maybe you're an S Corp, the taxes that's involved in that.
I'm still learning, you know?
Yeah. When it comes to your future and your family, how do you want to approach generational wealth? Don't cry on me, because I can't do this with you. I'm going to just be a mess.
I know, okay.
And this is a loaded question.
Well, my mom had me as a teenager. So I grew up like a single child to a teen mother. But now she remarried, and I have two brothers that are 12 years old and 9 years old. And like, they are my everything. I want to teach my brothers that money is abundant, that they can do anything that they want. I want to help my parents set them up for success financially, getting my little brothers like accounts early.
Yeah.
Again, I'm still learning, so I want to figure out like what the best route to go is.
And what those accounts could look like.
And what those accounts could look like. One of my brothers, he has type 1 diabetes. So I think there's this idea that he has to work at a job where they have good health insurance. And I don't want money to hinder my brothers from like doing what they want in this life.
What people fail to realize is that it's a mindset.
Yeah.
And if you are living in a lack versus an abundance, or I'm always having to chase the money, that is what you are going to inevitably always receive back, always chasing. But your brothers, they're so young that they have time, and they have such a good example to look up to. And even rewiring your parents and how they look at money and their relationship with money is also going to go a long way as well, especially as they come to build a plan of what financial success looks like for them.
1000%.
Brittany, this conversation has been amazing. I have so much respect for the way that you put on for your community and continue to flourish. I know this goes without saying, but I know you've got even bigger things in your future, and I personally can't wait to see what you conquer next. Thank you so much, Brittany, for your time today. And now I'm going to tap into the brilliant mind of our JP Morgan Wealth Management Advisor to get a realistic take on complicated financial terms. Step inside as we make it make sense. I'm here with Nina to dig deeper into this episode. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So my conversation with Brittany was so great, and she brought up the concept of experiencing financial first that her family wasn't previously able to. How would you guide someone who is reaching that new financial freedom?
Yeah, it's an exciting place to be, right? So number one, I'd say get help, seek professional advice, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. So that's number one. Number two, I'd say let's look at a budget, right? Let's look at your spend, what that looks like. And then number three, once you have enough to invest, let's assign purpose and intention to your portfolio. What's the purpose of this portfolio? What am I looking to accomplish in the long run? So again, those are my 3 bullet points. Start from there.
When do I know when to start to invest? Like how much?
Yeah, financial freedom, number one, means different things to different people at different times, right? So when I consider what may be a good time, well, number one, you can cover your expenses with your income. Fair enough, check. Moving on to stage 2 is I've got enough savings liquid in an account that's going to take me through, maybe your magic number is 6 months, maybe it's 12 months, covering expenses for 6 to 12 months. And then once I have over that amount, well, then I got to look at some longer term strategies. So working with a financial professional to figure out what that means to you is critically important.
I love that. It doesn't apply to everyone. It applies to you individually, which is why seeking a professional to help you outline that is going to be your best way of knowing when the right time is to invest.
Absolutely.
Generational financial trauma came up in our discussion. Can you tell us more about how that manifests itself in people's financial lives?
Yeah, generational trauma is real. And the interesting part about generational trauma is it shows up in different ways, right? Perhaps someone had a childhood where there was no budget and they didn't have any lack whatsoever, and so they just casually spend. That could be something. Maybe someone had an experience with lack and it was a very restrictive household and restrictive budget. So now that they have money, they casually spend. Same outcomes, very different experiences. The reason why that's so important is because if you have a plan and you set your intention on that plan, then you work with a professional to say, listen, here's what's most important to me. And I'm going to stick to an investment strategy that is that prioritizes what's most important to me, it grounds you, right? It takes that sort of subjective nature away from it. Oh, and by the way, we all do, right? Have some generational trauma as it pertains to money. What we try to do is neutralize it by saying, let's set our intention around this goals-based plan. Let's set an investment strategy that aligns with what you've told me is most important to you. And that way we can always stay on track with what we need to do as far as our goals and objectives are concerned.
One of the biggest questions I have for Brittany was, is financial literacy enough? With all of the experience you've had over the years, what's your take on that?
There are a lot of people who can tell you what a stock is and that is ownership of a company, and they can tell you what a bond is. But they have no idea as it pertains to how this works in an investment portfolio. So if the question is, as you say, is financial literacy enough? No, but it's a really good start.
Nina, I really appreciate you taking the time to break this all down with me. For us, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
That's all we got for this episode of With the Bag to Match. I want to say thank you to Brittany for stopping by and lending us all of her insights. I truly enjoyed our chat. And a special shout out to our JP Morgan Wealth Management Advisor, Nina, for making it all make sense. Please don't forget, the bag is far more than just a fashion statement. For us, it's a symbol of financial empowerment. Stop by for our next episode as we get into conversation with more amazing women who have built their careers with the bag to match. See you next time.